All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would stand for the invocation and Crowley, would you mind? Thank you. Please remain standing for the pledge.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you tonight and we are thankful for this crisp winter day that you have given us. It's pretty outside. And we just ask you to look over the mayor and council and the city doing work tonight and talking about some complicated and tough subjects. We just ask you to bless them and let them think freely and speak freely on these topics so we can make the right decisions. And in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Judge. Okay, next up is roll call, and all the council is present. Next on the agenda approval. There's a motion for that.
We'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
A second. Any comments? No comments? All in favor of approving the agenda as is, raise your hand. Unanimous. We'll go on to the consent agenda next. Approving the minutes and the financials that we said we would put on this agenda. October 3rd, 10th, November 7th, the other meeting, November 7th, and the financials from October 2024, you go back. The documents and plenty of time to look at it. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? So move. Second. Second. Any comments? All in favor, please raise your hands. Yes. Thank you. Old business. Tonight, we need to talk about the resolution to authorize and adopt an intergovernmental agreement between the city, the Public Works Department, and to obligate ARPA funds to go towards the expansion of the sewer plant and defining the sewer department under the Public Works Department. I'm going to ask Jay, who is already up, to go ahead and talk a little bit about this. We did touch on this at our last meeting.
Yes, ma'am. So the city was given a little over $500,000 in ARPA funds from COVID relief back in 2020, 2021. There is a deadline to commit those funds, not necessarily spend those funds, and the commitment date is December 31st of this year. So we're coming up on the deadline. And so what we have done after talking to the mayor and all of you all is we want to commit those funds to the sewer plant expansion. And so this is really just a paper trail evidencing those commitments of those funds, should anybody ask questions come January 1st. And so it's a little awkward the way that we had to set it up, but it is a IGA with the Public Works and the what you're authorizing here, the sewer department, to commit those funds to the sewer department for the sole reason of expanding the plant. And we think that is enough commitment to do it. It's a little awkward the way it's written. I talked with Brian earlier today. He had some questions because he's kind of signing an IGA, which I think is weird for him. And his main concerns were, one was his duties and powers and roles changing, which the answer is no. And two, his biggest concern, and I have the same concern about Brian, am I all of a sudden responsible for $500,000? The answer is also no. In the IGA and in the resolution, y'all contain complete control of the $500,000, when it's spent, how it's spent, all of that. Brian does not even have access to this money. It is just evidencing this commitment in a written form of us putting that $500,000 towards something. There were a few changes made since the last time, small changes. One, I think we had Brian listed as the superintendent. His job description is manager, so we have changed that to match his job description, so there's no confusion there. Brian caught that there was a social circle mentioned in there somewhere. We have changed to Walnut Grove. And I think those were the only two ones. Also, we just added that, these plans are gonna be approved, the sewer plant plans are gonna be approved. And it's in excess of $2 million. I think it's really close for $3 to go.
Yeah, it's 3,447,000 if you want the exact.
Yeah. And so we just did excess of $2 million. All that is to show is that we're gonna spend way more than the $500,000 we have to, it's not like it's a $300,000 project and there's 200,000 outstanding. So we're committing all the funds right now to that sewer plant project. And so the resolution is creating the sewer department under Public Works, which does not exist in the city yet. And then it's committing all those funds, and the IGA is a contract between the city and the sewer department, which is a little awkward because you're kind of doing a contract with yourself, but it is just the evidence that the money is being committed there.
Anybody have any questions on that?
I do have one. And not that I expect this, just because I'm just covering all bases. I don't expect this. If Brian, for some reason, is no longer with the city, how would that affect the city?
He is signing on behalf of the sewer department right now.
Okay,
And so the IGA is, if he leaves, it's still, yeah, yeah.
that's all I got.
Yeah. Right.
Brian's big concern is he wouldn't have responsibility for $500,000, and I wouldn't either. So,
Don't worry, Brian, they asked, what if I'm not here too?
yeah.
So,
Any other questions?
anybody? Okay. We are going to, I am going to call for a motion on this to move forward with this, and that's why we have called meeting tonight, and this is on the agenda. So I am going to call for a motion on the resolution.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize and adopt an IGA between the city and Public Works Department to obligate ARPA funds to go towards the expansion of the sewer plant and defining the sewer department under the Public Works Department.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you all. Okay. Discussion and review of the Walnut Grove commercial offsite development plans. Office site development plans, I'm sorry. Joe, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Where are we with this group? This is, the Matt Rutledge group.
Correct.
I don't think we've ever seen any exterior, any renderings of any kind. Am I mistaken? Am I not?
No, you're correct, Mayor, that we received on behalf of the city a set of civil construction drawings to do the civil site plan review, and we went through 2 iterations of drawings. They got all their approvals for to get it to, in order to obtain the land service permit.
Right.
And then we just indicated that, and they've had this for some time, so they just need to, they would need to get, they would need to get you the architectural things for you all to see their proposal. But I mean, they've met the other conditions to obtain a permit. I think they were, well, they're waiting, I think. I'm not sure if they're waiting on the sewer. I guess they're waiting on sewer or just other things, but they would need to, I think this one came in before the council decided to get very firm on architectural review. So they were sort of ahead of it, but they should be willing to do that if they've made the investment on giving you all quite a bit of architectural work on the PUD part of it.
Right. No, I agree. Okay. So I can reach back out to Mr. Rutledge and share with him, because I remember seeing an email that you had indicated it would be important for them to get us materials that they're looking.
Yes, and I mean, that was well, since this council's been in place and y'all had expressed, we pretty much tell everybody now, you've got to go in front of council.
Yeah.
And I know you're, part of it is you're looking at the look and feel of the buildings. But also you all in the past may not have seen the drawings just to get a feel of what's been proposed,
Right.
if it wasn't a zoning issue. So it wouldn't, if you want to see those before they move forward, you could get those, and if y'all approve it, then that's just one
Yeah.
step that's already done when they ever decide to go ahead and pull a permit.
Right, right, because there's no point in doing a land dispute.
Well, they could pull, I think they're gonna wait, my recollection is, because they want to use dirt. They want to be able to take soil and do the PUD part. I think there was some of that. I think probably the market, well, I'm speculating the market may have changed for this right now, so they're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're waiting on sewer too as well to make it much easier.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that you'll reach out to Mr. Rutledge and ask him to submit architecturals. I'll make a note of it and I'll update it on my next zoning report that
Okay.
those have been requested.
All right.
Is he planning, I have a question, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. All right.
Is he planning on doing this in phases, do you know, or is this just the?
What you received was, I
Right,
think this would be done in one phase, and they sent two drawings, one of which is the bigger version. Because if you remember at the time, this was submitted prior to the PUD being submitted for zoning.
right,
So they were going to use this driveway as their access point. I would assume that they would do it, they probably wouldn't build all the buildings at once because
right,
they would probably build, at one time they wanted to do a retail use back there, the hardware store.
right,
I'm sure I would build that first and then as need. But they would do all the site prep at one time and
Yeah.
just build as needed, so they're not. But now, of course, you can always ask that too.
right. I just-
Say, I want to schedule a development. What do you plan? Most of the time, these are not done in one fell swoop unless there's just a tremendous demand. And there might be.
Might be, yeah.
For, I know it was when they came to you all for zoning, that there was a need for this type of use.
Yeah.
And you all agreed once they brought it back, well, they brought it back through again with this, when they reconfigured their site plan.
Like, yeah. I just didn't know, I know we had talked about phases for the other one, but I don't know about the one, I'm just being nosy.
Keep in mind, council, at any point, you can call any of these people. If you have any questions, please know that that's perfectly fine. Or you can call me and I'll call. That's it, because I have the same questions, definitely.
Joe, maybe you can answer this. Do you know if this, when they put that road in, if that's going to take out that strip of trees that's there between the church and their lots?
It should not, Maxine, it should be on, and I don't have the full site package, but it should keep those trees that are on the church's side there. And they're supposed to come back, even if they do that, they're supposed to re-landscape that. I can check on that.
I'm thinking about in conjunction with us also approving the church stuff with their metal walls and stuff and what will be viewable and not viewable.
Right.
It's kind of throws into one puzzle there.
Well, it does. And I also know that the buffers, there was a lot of discussion about them having to come back in when they actually plant that buffer. If, behind the church's detention pond, if you could, in the back of the church's property is going to be part of this property, this property, they're supposed to come back and enhance that and do a fence. Because they requested, if you recall, a buffer reduction, be able to maximize their footprint. So they would have to come back in and do that, which should, at maturity, achieve the screening for the rear of the church building. But I don't think it will, initially because of the spacing. And you can always drag Chris McCreary back from, Beaufort down here too, if you wanted to, that's good, but I mean, we can, that was discussed in great detail because as you recall, we went through 2 iterations of the zoning, trying to get this correct.
Any more questions? We're gonna go ahead and move on to Church of the Grove expansion, project. I have not received any new, information about the materials that they're planning. Joe, I believe they think that they are ready for a land disturbance permit.
Yes, ma'am, they sent an email yesterday indicating that they've addressed all their comments, and they said they've gotten all their approvals, so they were asking how many hard copies they need. Now, the drawings can be approved, just to say they're approved. If, you know, they still have to, you know, essentially apply to you all for a permit. And you certainly don't have to.
Yeah.
Grant them if one of your conditions is to come back and get all that. I mean, I guess one could argue that the land service permit is not tied to the building exterior, but at the same time, I'm trying to recall what other items y'all still had questions on from the last.
Just the exterior material.
This exterior.
And the number of walls that which walls were gonna have the exterior material that they were originally putting the wavy one on 2 walls and then the
Yes,
plain, and I know there was some discussion with the council that you can see 3 sides of that building from the road. And there's possibility of being able to see the 4th one, but that's behind, and then that's all about timing. But I haven't received any new information about that. And I'm trying to, why would you want to do a land disturbance permit if 1, you don't have everything in place yet financially, and 2, you haven't gotten, you know, the go forward with this from the council.
Because we have 6 months, right? From the land disturbance permit to build.
Yeah,
Well, and also, if those exterior materials are not approved and it costs a lot more money to build the structure, that would change.
right. You would want to get that in right, you know, get that nailed down before you get a land disturbance permit, and 6 months later, you don't have the money to do it. But that's really on them.
well, and not trying to speculate, but going through a church rebuilding process, I just know that it may be that they want to show some progress, but I mean, I would also, you could pose that question
Mhm.
to the architect or to the pastor who was here last time and say, you know, you also remember that the engineer is doing the engineer's job, which is to ask the questions about what do we need to do. And I'm sure they want it to get permitted because, you know, maybe they're getting paid based on getting the permit. So, I mean, I think that's it, but, you know, you could get clarification from the owner about their timetable.
Yeah.
And I could say, well, you know, this is great, but if we wanted more information from our last meeting, and we really need that before we can say, all right, you're good, go forth.
Mhm. Well, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but if a land disturbance permit is granted and they start, you know, they talked about wanting to promote this to their congregation, which I totally understand, because that's how you can build up excitement and finances quickly. But we want this clear area as just this. I mean, it's huge. It's a big area. It would be cleared, and it could be that way for 2 years.
And the other question you may want to ask too, Mayor, is that they may need the parking now. I don't know what their attendance is, if they're just parking. But you know, a lot of that could be phased if the council was
Yeah,
interested in that, and do a partial permit. There's a lot of flexibility, but if
we really need to find out where they.
it would be good to have that because, you know, they could, once you cut them loose, they're gonna go and develop, then you just have the construction issues,
Mhm.
you know, that you have to deal with, but you know, and then, but if you all really want to get these architectural questions answered, then I would just say, look, we're gonna hold off until we're satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the concerns I had was I happened to notice online that they had posted some pictures
Mhm.
of their new building to come as though it were approved, and it actually didn't even look like it was not the same drawings that we saw.
They weren't.
No. It was different than what was presented to us. So that's a concern of mine, is that maybe there's a little bit of this, let's push this through and kind of trying to push council a bit. That was kind of the feeling I got from some of them.
Okay, I'll reach out to them tomorrow too. We have another meeting next week. It's called meeting, there will be a called meeting. And maybe they can come and answer some of those questions and clarify things for us a little bit better. Does that work for everybody? Okay. All right, I don't want to waste too much time on it when we don't have the information we need. We're gonna go ahead, thank you, Joe. We're gonna move on to HB 581. And we have had lots of information about this. Jay had shared some stuff. And if you would share again, a brief synopsis of.
Yes. So, HB 581, or as the GMA calls it, the lost, is, it's not easy to get your head around, but from my perspective, I'm sure Joe can share in that confusion, but basically what it is, it does three things. One is it changes, tax procedural appraisals and you appeal those. There's nothing you gotta do on those. That's just what it is. It requires counties to assess residential properties every 3 years. We appeal a lot of taxes for clients, both residential and commercial. You know, the game is you just appeal it, you'll lose, and it's locked in for 3 years. They've changed that where now it has to get reduced for you to get that 3-year lock. Nothing we can do about that. What does affect the city and what we need to talk about is the other two. So the first thing is to do, you're automatically in if you do nothing. And automatically into that homestead exemption would, it would take away the county's ability to raise it to the fair market value of a home, which is what they do now. And instead, what you buy it at, or what it's locked into at the beginning of 2025, it can only be increased by the inflation rate, which is largely different, as Ms. Miles can tell us, what houses will sell for a year, 2 year. So if the inflation rate goes up 2%, they can only raise your home value 2%, where your house may sell for $50,000 more, the fair market rate. So you can, and to get out of that, you have to specifically opt out of that, which means 3 public hearings and a vote. And you can't start that process until after January 1st, and it's going to be done by the end of March, or at least sent to the DCA by then. So it's a very tight frame, and this is a all or nothing one shot at it this year. You can't opt out and opt back in, or you can't opt in and opt out later. This is it forever and ever. And so it's a lot of pressure and a lot of things to think about. Now, what the General Assembly provided to sort of supplement that is a local option sales tax, the FLOST, is what they call it. And to get that, there'd have to be a referendum in Walton County, be approved by all the voters in Walton County. And then all the cities in the county that do property taxes, which I think is everybody but maybe Jersey,
In between. Yeah.
Have to agree on an IGA and how that money is going to be split up. That's good for 5 years, and then you got to do the referendum again and agree again, and so on and so on. So practically, how I see this going, at least in Walton County, is cities are going to maybe opt in. I've heard already the county's going to opt out, but if the county and cities were going to opt in, they put up to a vote because the homeowners would get a benefit from that. And then I can't see Walton County voters authorizing a 1% sales tax increase. I can't do that. So, so you're basically stuck with this kind of slow growing home values, which is what your millage rate is based on. So either you got to cut your budget or raise your millage rate to make up for that. There are some, I guess, some other considerations. This is only for residential homes, primary residences. And so if you were to opt in and then raise millage rates, it would hit commercial and industrial properties harder than single family homeowners. So that's a way to make it up, I guess. Assuming the FLOSS doesn't pass the sales tax. So those are really the considerations. I know you all have some questions and emails that you all sent back to me, which I'll answer right now as well. So from Maxine, you all can opt in without the county opting in and give that homestead exemption, which is really, the only exemption is really the growth aspect to that home value. The county, if you buy your house for $200,000 next year, you know, they're only subject to the inflation increase rather than the fair market value of the home. So if they live there 15 years, it's going to go up way lower than what their house is actually worth. Let's see. To answer your question, Maxine, yes, you have to run the 3 public hearings in the vote between January 1st and March 1st, and that's due to the state. That resolution is due to the state by the end of March, which we would be entitled to cross.
You keep saying the end of March, isn't it the 1st of March?
It is. So you have to vote on it the 1st of March, but the resolution has to be to them by the end of March. So they give you a 30-day grace period to get them that resolution. You got to vote on it before March 1st,
Okay.
but they have to receive it by the end of March. So yes, it's 3 public hearings plus a resolution vote. So really that's 3 meetings because you could vote on it after the last one, and you know you could do it. It's similar to how you adopt a budget or a millage rate increase. You know, you could do it on 1 meeting, your work session, special call public hearing. You could do another public hearing like lunchtime of your regular one and the last one that night.
Okay, that was my next
Yeah,
question.
so it doesn't have to be, I mean, 2 months is a short time period, but you could just line them up 3 straight meetings too. But they don't have to be at night. You could especially call one at noon on a Tuesday if you wanted to.
I know you can't have the meetings before January 1st. Can you advertise them?
Well, you'd almost have to,
You'd have to, right, but that's allowed.
yes.
Okay.
No, my understanding was you can't even run your ad until January 1 because the law is not in effect until January 1.
I think you could run the ad, because I don't know, you're really restricting your time frame then.
Right.
And my understanding was that was very purposeful.
Yeah, it is. The General Assembly wants all cities and counties to be in, so they're making it very difficult to opt out. But even if it's, you know, if we have to run the ad start the ad process on January 2nd, you could still do it. It'd be a lot on you all, because we'd have to call 3 meetings, but you could
But
do,
we could have 2 of those in the same day.
correct.
So
So,
we advertise properly.
so it is not, they want Grove, Good Hope, Jersey. Oh, well, Good Hope and Jersey's not gonna count because they don't do property taxes, right? Okay,
It's
so,
really Walnut Grove, Social Circle, Loganville, and Monroe.
so if Monroe and Loganville opt in and they hold the most population, how does that affect us?
It wouldn't from the aspect of just giving the homestead exemption. So every city and county can give their homestead exemption. It's gonna matter with the sales tax option because the county and all the cities that do property taxes have to agree and all do it. So if the county's out, you're not ever gonna get the sales tax. You could still give your citizens the benefit of the homestead exemption.
Okay.
And that's not affected by the county not doing it or Monroe not doing it or whatever.
But us opting in or out of the bill
Yes.
has
And
nothing to do with
if
any
you
of
opt
that.
in, you do nothing. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
You just sit there.
If we opt out, we still have the option of at any point in time then giving our own exemption
Correct.
in any way, like the county does now. They have the freeze exemption. We could do that, or we could do, I don't know, homestead exemption or whatever, right?
Yes. It may take a local act from your state representatives, but that they're not going to ever object to that if you all ask for it. So it helps them.
And the amount that the home is worth January 1st, 2025 will be,
Frozen,
The
so to
value.
speak.
okay.
And then they can only increase it by the inflation rate.
So what if you closed on the house March first? What is the value gonna run off of? What it was on January first or what the new sales price
Yeah,
is?
so every time the house is resold, it comes back to fair market.
Okay.
Who is it that sets that inflation rate? Which government entity?
It's by the federal government, whatever they determine was the inflation rate for the year. So it's 2%, it goes up from 200,000 to 204,000. If it's 8%, it goes from 200,000 to 216,000.
And the
And when it
average,
goes down.
Then it's probably stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
the average, rate of property increases each year is about 4%,
In Walton County.
right?
The way this bill originated though is the metro Atlanta counties, which I'm not including Walton for this, have gone crazy the last 3-4 years. I mean, I've seen some in Gwinnett County, they go 30%.
Mhm.
So this is what that's battling.
Isn't that too bad they couldn't have done it based on the population or past year's growth
Now, correct me
in
if
the
I'm
housing industry?
correct me if I'm wrong, if this ballot could actually still be struck down before January first, right? That would have to be, but it could be at the state level. So. Okay.
Governor signed it, so it's coming January 1st, I think, absent some lawsuit setting it aside.
My concern is if we opt in, it is going to affect the bottom line of the property taxes the city takes in.
Right.
We're a growing city. That means since the option of doing the floss is not going to be there because the county's going to opt out. That's what the commissioner stated.
Mhm.
So there will be no additional floss. That means we will have to raise our millage rate.
Yes.
It's a lose-lose for all of us.
Mhm.
I agree.
We either, if we opt out, the citizens don't get the benefit of the bill. They'll be unhappy with us. If
But
we
by the
opt,
same token, if we see ways to cut costs here,
yeah,
we can lower tax, we can at least not increase tax.
right. But we've also discovered that it has been years of not handling sewer, not sewer, the stormwater drainage, road issues.
right.
We have a lot of things that's going on now.
But that's what I'm saying, we're in a better position to manage it
Mhm.
rather than federal level managing it for us essentially.
Right, right. Because I think everybody up here wants taxes as low as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we have to run a city. We have a responsibility.
Right.
So if we put it in our hands, and also I think it's very important that whatever we decide to do, we need to have some kind of a marketing strategy to explain and say, this is why this is happening. And this is why the decision, whatever that decision may be. And if the county doesn't do something like that, we need to focus on that for our citizens to have them understand. Because on the ballot, when people were voting on this, it sounded really good to a lot of people. But when people called me, I was like, you really need to look into this because if this happens, there is a possibility as a growing city, we're gonna have to do this. And I don't like that idea at all. I know that none of us do. But we need to make sure the word gets out about whatever the decision is. This is why it happened and this is what we're gonna do to do our best to, stay on task with keeping our taxes as low as we can.
I really think by opting out, this would put more control back into the hands of our constituents and in turn, putting more control over how we're able to develop our city by putting it in their hands. Not just in ours, but in theirs.
Also, the Walton County they put a freeze on the values of the homes.
Yeah.
So they were ahead of this bill, whereas, everybody else was increasing property values 30% and causing people not to afford their mortgage, really. Could be really a.
So, because I don't know, do the citizens of Walnut Grove get that county exemption too?
Yes, because the county appraises all the homes, so we all go off of that same appraised value.
And at the meeting that we had with Bruce Williamson, I think we were all at, he made a statement that Walton County is ahead of the curve. We've always been very responsible with our property taxes and how we tax our citizens. And unfortunately, there are those in the larger populated areas that have not, and that's why those are going up 30% of the property values. And the whole state is pushing, and the governor is pushing affordable housing. This is just another way to ensure that there's affordable housing.
And essentially, also, if I understand correctly, it's not going to change for us if we opt in from the standpoint that currently what the county offers is the more advantageous to the citizens. So therefore, that's the one you have to go with. If both are in place, then you have to give the citizens the more advantageous of the two. And currently, that would be what Walton County has.
Mhm.
So we're essentially not taking away from the citizens what they may feel like we are.
Mm.
Because they're still gonna get the benefit of what is the
Right,
best
right.
in that way.
It's all about education.
Yeah.
Letting everybody see what's really.
And this one's a hard one to educate on because it's hard to explain even what's going on with
I'll
it.
tell you an easy way to talk to the citizens about it though, is they look at their tax bill. The reason their tax bill increased is because of the school taxes.
Mhm.
It's not because of how much their property value increased.
And some people, I don't pay school tax.
Well, right, so
So-
like, but those, the ones that are seeing those major increases is mainly
Right.
from the school board,
Right.
not from, because their property appraised at a
Right,
higher
they
rate.
make it the bottom line.
Yeah.
The other thing, if I may, Mayor, and I'm just gonna play devil's advocate, I'm not
Mhm.
pushing for this, but I want y'all to have all the information. If you were to opt in, and Walnut Grove is great about this, but it's rare from cities that we've seen, y'all basically roll back every year. Most cities just stay the same every year, which is an increase, but it's
Right.
the same rate. And so that's how they kind of make up for the increase of costs. If you were to opt in and do that,
Mhm.
it would pass along most of your expenses to the industrial and commercial properties and not your residential. So that's the one counter argument I've heard to doing this, because if you increase your millage rate, it's not going to hurt the single family homeowner as much as it will the commercial, industrial, and you get some more money in that way because they are not subject to this.
But currently, we don't have a ton of business here.
But you will.
And so this is, the inflation rate is set nationally, right?
Yes.
So by opting in, you're giving so much control. This, you're just giving away the control.
For single family residences,
Right.
commercial properties will be.
So like say Chicago, who is a very different city than Walnut Grove.
Yeah.
If they're setting it based on those standards, then, you know, it could just be very different because there's just so many different cities in the nation. So, but I understand what you're saying, it would,
This is just a state of Georgia thing. They're just basing it on federal inflation rates.
I'm inclined to vote to opt out.
We're gonna vote on this. We're gonna put it on the agenda for next week. And we'll make a decision. We have to make a decision by then. Does anybody have anything else to add or any questions? I'm gonna ask Mr. Walter.
I was looking at the consumer price index.
I'm just asking, as a mayor, do you have any other insight or thoughts, or have you guys thought of anything else that we haven't talked about?
No, not yet, because we haven't, in my county, we haven't had this level of discussion yet. And we're in a little bit different situation, although we're growing and we have the same number of, a lot of rapid residential growth.
Mhm.
Our challenge is we have an interim county manager who's also the county attorney and our city attorney. So I was sitting here today reading this stuff. I will say this is the most insightful piece I've seen. and all the 3 times I've heard this,
Mhm.
presentation as a mayor, I was trying to go through the iterations of how we might, my community might do that. I think I don't know yet. I just know that y'all have done a lot of thought and good. In your situation with, we don't have a municipal homestead. We have the county homestead, and it's a set amount, but we have seen the evidence of those rapid.
Mhm.
And there are people, in my community countywide who are just flaming mad. And there were so many appeals that have affected our ability to get the digest done in the last 2 years. So there's a lot of issues about how assessments are done.
Mhm.
So from a mayor to a mayor, I'm thankful that you all had those discussions. Y'all are a little bit more, ahead of the curve on this side of the county. I mean, you know, my community is the biggest city, and, you know, we're your size,
Yeah.
so we're the biggest city in the county. And there are more people in Monroe than there are in my whole county.
Mhm.
But we're just seeing the same effects, just that the magnitude is different.
Yeah.
So what I'm sitting here thinking is we need to call a meeting of all the mayors and the county chairman and and soon, because I'm sure none of the other cities have even had this, have seen this.
Yeah.
So it's a, you know, if you're looking at, ultimately, those of us who are trying to figure out how to be responsible and figure out how much property tax we're gonna charge, you all are, and we might, you know, it's gonna be a sort of an amount, and you kind of have to work around that. I guess that's how y'all have done yours, and then try to get let's reverse it, to get our millage to, I don't think we've probably done it the way that you're originally supposed to do it, but, you know, I don't know off the top of my head how much tax, the value, how much y'all have assessed or levied this past year.
Mhm.
I don't, y'all have a memory?
Not off the top of my head.
It's, you know.
No.
We're around 430,000. We just levied that much, but our millage rate's like 7.759. And we worked hard to not have that tax increase.
Yeah.
So we have, you know, we've looked at other revenue sources trying to make up the difference. We have we have fines and forfeitures budget that's probably, you know, that's something y'all probably have a very small amount compared to ours.
Yeah.
Um,
That's on the next, January. The fines and forfeitures and fees schedule.
okay, and that's good to do that, because that's, then and so if you have that, then you have to worry about it making budget, which is a whole nother discussion. I will say that
Yeah.
off camera about challenges of the municipal police department. And what we're going through right now has consumed a lot of our time, but so to stop rambling on, I think that y'all have thought through it, and you have some very thoughtful opinions. I appreciate the fact that y'all have got the tax commissioners, and, you know, I'm assuming that's who y'all talking about, your chief appraisers are really working hard trying to get those. And if you have that, you know, you also have to look at that, if the freeze that's there now is, I guess, more beneficial to your residential owners than this floating one. I mean, the CPI was like 2.6% this past year,
Mhm.
and it's gonna change a little bit, so.
It's gonna be in that range.
So it's probably gonna be about 3% a year, so that the people that have a house and had it 15 years, that's just gonna slowly
Mhm.
creep up, which is probably manageable for most.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when the next phase of something gets built around here, and then, you know, whatever the market rate they sell at, that sets that rate, so.
Yeah.
And I'll say, this is, from a budgetary concern, this is probably not a 25 or 26 problem for anybody,
No,
but it's a 2035.
Yeah.
36 problem.
yeah,
The freeze that the county currently has, is anyone aware of how long that plans on staying in effect?
I don't.
So
That's something-
maybe reach out to the tax
Yeah,
commissioner.
that's something you can do, and I don't know the specifics. I know Gwinnett County has a freeze to, you buy your home and sort of it's a gradual increase rather than jumping up, which I'm assuming Monroe or Walton County is similar, but, so it may, like Maxine said, it may already be better than what they're offering.
Yeah, the freeze that's in place is whatever you buy your property for, that's the value that is used every
Forever.
year. Forever. I mean, mine's been that way 20 years. I have the same value every year.
Yeah, so that's gonna be way better.
20 years that I've been there. Now, if I sell my house and move, that changes everything.
Yeah.
My house value will go with the new sale, or wherever I buy it goes with the new. But it stays the same. That creates not the fair market value, but the taxable value.
Mhm.
So my tax, and it's 40%. That's, I mean, I think my taxable value is $80,000 or something.
That's great.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm super jealous. I know, me too. I'm on to
But, you know, so it just depends on how many people stay put locally,
And we don't
how
have
much
much.
effect. But
And I would-
it doesn't mean we can't put some sort of exemptions in later on or something to help, you know, whether it's senior exemptions or something else.
But the other thing too to consider,
things go.
council, is that if you have this, once the sewer's in place and you have this tremendous commercial multifamily growth, a number of properties that can be taxed will increase dramatically. So
But they're not, the multifamily and the commercial are not
Right.
so different.
So the other way to look at this is you'll have a whole lot more entities to tax, you and the school board and the county. So, and you all as a local government worried about, we're concerned in one way about, we estimate that we need to levy this amount of money. But now it's getting spread out over a lot more taxpayers, so the effect that any individual property owner is gonna be much smaller. So the millage rate, probably adjustments make it, but Jay is right. It evens out as the length of time, as future councils go, and if things are permanently stuck, then at some point you gotta go, well, we have to.
Yeah.
To be able to, because we're a bigger city, we're growing, our operational needs grow up.
Right,
Road.
exactly.
You know, when you're 4,000 people or 3,000 people, then, you know, it's just, things are gonna cost. So part of that may be able to hopefully get information from the last couple of digests and kind
Mhm.
of see how the trend is going.
Mhm.
But Jay's right, and this wouldn't affect any of the
Right.
commercial industrial.
But even if you all raise the millage rate a whole point,
Mhm.
right? It's, Maxine's at 80,000, it's not gonna hit her nearly as hard as it is the commercial.
Right.
and-
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
At least on pure dollars.
The freeze is not total on I'd have to have my tax bill in front of me. It doesn't roll over to the city value in the same way.
Doesn't.
So
It doesn't
you have a
give you as
different value
much.
for you don't have you have a different value for the county and the city.
Very interesting.
Mine for the county still shows my purchase price, but the one for the city shows fair market value as assessed by the tax.
And keep in mind too, the citizens don't want overgrowth.
No.
We have a downtown area, but the citizens have basically said, and they're gonna be talking more during initiative. They don't want overgrowth like Loganville and so overgrowth. We won't be, we only have a limited amount of space.
Right.
And when you reach that spot where you have grown as much as we can, that's when it's gonna start hitting us, whether any of us are still here or not. So we have.
But having self-control versus it being controlled
Oh,
at
no,
a
I
higher
agree.
level.
I agree, but that's, something to think about, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road.
You have more chance to help your
Right.
citizens, in other words, if you have that self-control.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't like turning my checkbook over to other people to decide my budget, my bills. I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
And
And also, are we sure if inflation, inflation. Let's get rid of this. Never mind.
who knows what, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, somebody will put in to abolish this whole bill. Because they figure out that it's not working like they thought.
Yeah.
I will, this is a guess. I would expect a bunch of counties and cities that opt in don't get that sales tax.
Mhm.
Right. And then the next thing you know, you've got a battle on your hands and you're looking at changes all over again. So somehow, to me, kind of staying status quo seems
Or you say
safer.
people, feeling like it's, the city government's fault that their stormwater is messed up and they won't fix it, and not realizing that they don't have the money for it, and then, yeah.
Yeah. Then you're awfully quiet down there. You're listening, you're good? All right. Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
This is the hard one to digest.
Yeah.
It's,
It's
no,
involved.
no one understands, so,
Depends.
Yeah, I have a question on it. The first seminar I attended,
Legislators penned this.
Joe,
Who's Williamson is making this one?
this body.
I don't know Matt Reeves and Gwinnett County was a big supporter of it. Gwinnett County.
I may have it. I'll,
Yeah.
Okay. It's
I'll-
very helpful.
I'll email you because I've amended twice to Jim Thornton about how I've heard it twice and it still doesn't make any sense. This at least, it helps, but
It's almost like you gotta shoot yourself. It's almost like you have to shoot yourself in the foot with the hopes of getting it repaired later.
Right?
Sort of
Mhm. Yeah,
It's scary.
okay. Is everybody, no more questions? Okay, remember, talk to each other too about this. All right, thank you, Jack. We're gonna go ahead and move on to new business, and this is the, as we announced at the last, meeting, and it was announced in the paper. Walnut Grove getting the Jeep loan. Yeah, I had originally, thought that we were gonna get the loan package overnight, and I guess that's how they did it in the past. I've spoken with, the representative from JIPA on 2 occasions now, because I've been concerned we didn't get the package. I spoke to him 2 days ago, and he said, we're just taking a little more time to get the packages out and making sure the information is correct. And I said to him, but we did get this loan. He goes, oh yeah, you've got the loan. Don't worry, it's coming. I said, okay. When it comes, what we have to do is we have to send a form letter to our auditor and have him put that on his letterhead and our attorney and have them do that. I have to sign off on a bunch of documents, but it's all very well explained and how that happens. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Joe since I don't have that packet in front of me. What his recommendation would be at this point.
and I will say part of the challenge is they're also trying to put out the lead service line
Oh, yeah.
loan packages, which doesn't affect you all, it's because you're not a water utility, but, so I think that, because we received the lead service line in Zebulon replacement. One was principal forgiveness, so when we got our package, it was at the same meeting, so I'm not saying ours got ahead, I think
Yeah.
they've got so much they're trying to put out, but
Yeah.
the city will get a pack of documents, and there'll be 2 sets of a lot of the loan agreement. And there'll be a bunch of places where you all have to be signed. And then the mayor stated there's a letter of council and there's a letter of the auditor. And as soon as you get those packages, I would take those and then send it to, or scan it and send it to Jay, and send it to Sam, or your auditor, your auditor
Hi.
firm,
Yeah.
Kyle,
Mhm.
and say, please put this on your letterhead.
Yeah.
They should be used to seeing those, and then, because you'll need those back, and that tends to. The other thing you all would need to do is at a regular meeting, once you have the documents, is to, have a vote to, I would say to accept the loan and to authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents. And then, so I would do that as one motion. And then there's another place in there where you have to, there's a signature card for draws, a signature card for the bank account.
Right.
So y'all can decide who you want your signatories are. And then I would also suggest you, is it hopefully that's not just me with the lights flashing.
No, it blinked.
Okay. I also suggest that you all, vote to open up however you need to do it, open up a separate checking account just for these funds, and you may have done that with the previous GFA loan, because money will come in, the draws will come in, and money will go out to pay the contractor. And they're also gonna ask you for an origination fee of 1% of that amount, which you'll need to have sitting in that account. And they'll take it, they'll withdraw it 2 months after you sign all the documents and they countersign.
Construction loan.
Well, it's kind of like that. So what will happen is, as this project moves along, you will expend funds. And when you get to needing to draw the GFA funds down, you'll submit there's just a simple form and you just put invoices on it. Engineering, construction. We put in some money for legal and admin too. And, if you wanted to draw money down for their services for reviewing all that, you can. And some communities do and some don't. And then we will help you with that process if you need it just to do that. And most all of it's they do a really good job of having everything. And they tell you, don't date this or date that. It's straightforward. And there's something called an extract of minutes in there, which is essentially at the meeting where you all vote to accept it and do that, that becomes sort of your specialized minutes for that, whatever date that is, and you just fill those dates in and sign it and seal it. But so it's if you have your getting everything signed, I mean, you can keep going with the project while you get the forms, because you'll send the packet of stuff to GFA and Hunter Hill will countersign it. They'll send you the loan agreement back. I would also suggest if you don't have a GFA loan file, to make one and put every piece of correspondence that comes in there in that file.
We have one.
Unless you have some other, even though you may have other things in your minute book and other to help, because it gets, there's a lot of paper that gets. So it's not, I mean, I would say that it's less complicated than buying a house. As far as all the numbers, well, now it's all done electronically too, a lot of it is, but but they make it easy because they have communities much smaller and much bigger that have to go through the same sets of forms. And then there'll be certain conditions of it, like you make sure GFA comes to the pre-construction conference and you keep them, appraised of the process of the project. So it should not take too long for, to get everything executed and then, get it back and y'all make your own decisions about signatories and for draws, whether you want one or two. And you get to, and it's all that, and there's forms, tax forms and things you have to fill out. So that part's pretty straightforward. If I had it, I could show you, this is what it looks like. But it'll come soon enough, but you still can take the necessary steps at your next business meeting if y'all chose to actually get the loan paperwork. Because then, once you got it, you can sign it you get it stamped whenever your schedule permitted. And once the documents came back from the auditor and from the attorney, you can bundle them up and get them on their way.
You and I spoke that even if the loan documents don't come in by next Thursday, it is still okay to move forward with the authorization and the acceptance of the loan. Is that correct?
In my opinion, as your engineer's rep, yes. I'm not the city attorney, but you really all they're doing is to say the board of GFA board of directors has done a press release that said that you got a loan. You just don't have it in front of you to go. And you could always put your caveat in there that you were subject to attorney review. If he had something that he wasn't sure of, then you could.
Yeah.
And I think that would be prudent as well.
Yeah.
In your motion, just say subject to attorney review, because I don't know if Jay.
I got a son of chief on it too, so I need to look at it.
Right. And I'm not saying he shouldn't look at it, but I just say that, that gives you enough time because I don't know how many of those they've seen. They may have seen, I don't know if y'all looked over social circles packages. We're helping them with that, but I didn't see any of the loan paperwork on those.
They're all pretty standard. We don't really have anything, but it's better to Sometimes they change it.
And so that could be worked into your
Okay.
your approval motion for the
Yeah.
documents.
All contracts go before the attorney.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Cool. All right, then I think, we will go ahead and you guys will see this on the next meeting. Hopefully the package will come in. But if it doesn't, we'll do that, accepting and authorizing it. You guys can make a motion on that. Contingent upon the review. by-
And it'll come in a nice, overnight envelope or FedEx envelope addressed to you.
Mhm.
So, you get the joy of unzipping the envelope and
I've
going.
been waiting,
I know.
I've been waiting.
Should we check it out, maybe?
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Really excited about that happening. Okay, we're gonna move on to update and review of the Envision Walnut Grove Initiative.
Mayor,
Okay.
we, one more item you had on,
Oh,
talk about the bid
the
calendar.
bid calendar.
Can we discuss that before we
Absolutely.
go to something?
Yeah, based
A
on
lot
the
more
conversation we had was that you and Jim from your organization thought that it would be best to wait to go advertise after the holidays. We would get better responses.
I think that well, I'll just say that we had a client that we had to, and it was a very good project, it was chief funding, took us 3 tries to get contractors. Some of it was but one of the times we bid it, it was the July the 4th, sat right in the middle of the bid period, so contractors didn't do anything, so we didn't have any takers. My only concern is with Christmas being, you could extend it, you don't necessarily, you could start it after the first of the year, or you could start, chances are, most of the contractors are going to, they're winding down, but they're also kind of thinking ahead. So if you wanted to start at the beginning of the year, it wouldn't be any problem. It just kind of pushes all these dates out. If you want to go ahead and advertise, we said that on the 18th, we just could extend the due date into February, just have a longer advertisement period. There's nothing that says you couldn't do that. This project's going to be that we're going to have to, it goes to all the places it needs to go to, but we would contact people that we know and say, hey, this is coming on the street. You need to take a look at it, because this is a specialty thing compared to just putting pipes in the ground, for instance.
Yeah.
I just wanted you all to kind of give us guidance, because all the documents are ready. It's been ready for some time. We just need to fill in the dates and then proceed to get you what you need to put it on Georgia procurement and, get it to paper and such.
I don't think there's any harm in advertising now, but extending when the bids are due, I think is a very good idea.
I had penciled in, Mayor, either having them do either on the 4th or the 13th, and then aiming towards the February 27th work session. And then, which means we probably y'all couldn't award unless you had called a meeting until your March. Since y'all were nice enough to send the meetings calendar. You have a March council meeting, I think that's what,
April 3rd would be the.
April 3rd, sorry, yes. My handwriting got pushed down. I think that would be a reasonable time frame, because once the bids are open, we need a little bit of time to analyze it. And I know you all like to discuss it before you vote on it, so you need time. We need to just build that in the calendar. Because generally we vet the contractor, check their bonds, check their references if we are not familiar with them. And then plus we also look at what the bid is versus the budget, and, give you all a report on that. Just, you may have done that with the Emerald Cove repaving project on selecting the contractors that you,
We had a bid opening date, and we'll probably do that here, where all the bids will be opened. And then you guys will review it. You have a listing of all of the bids that came in that are vetted.
correct.
And what the company name was and what their estimate was, and that would come to the council to make a decision.
Correct. It would be, we would do a certified bid tabulation that would have every contract that responded and all their unit prices. And then we would you know, we always look at, if there's multiple bidders, we look at the first couple that are the low bidders to kind of, we check their pricing as well, because sometimes they make mistakes. And, you know, in the hurry to get it all filled out, and then we always come back and give you a written understanding of.
Right.
We don't call it a recommendation, but we say, this is how we, you know, you would feel comfortable going in this direction. And also, if something comes up that's sort of out of the ordinary, we would have a conversation ahead of time at the work session, go, look, you know, this is you know, there's something. Or if it's outside of your budget time frame, we talk about, well, here's what you can do.
Right.
To bring it back in the budget. So since y'all just went through that with the Emerald Cove project, it's very similar. We do the same steps. And we've already contracted to provide that service, and we would assist you through all that, because you just tell us come back with the dates, and then I know we talked about possibly having them do it certain, like 5 o'clock one day, open the next day at
Yeah.
you know, 11 o'clock or something. However, you know, you tell us how you want to do that.
Okay. Would you share with me again, would you send me the scope of the job?
Yes,
I'd like to share that with council. What will go out for bids for
Yes.
companies, so that council can see
Yes.
what that is.
we have a project description that went in I'll send that.
All right, thank you.
Um,
I want them to be on the same page with the whole process.
because there are a couple of moving parts to that, I think, that I know the council gets questions from
Okay.
folks at the store, and you can say, well, yeah, this, yeah.
Does council have to vote on the bid calendar?
Well, I think it would be good, as long as everybody's on the same page.
Well,
We don't need to,
The
we
reason,
don't need to vote on it.
well, that's the reason I was asking, because I was gonna say, I'm comfortable putting the bid calendar set up in the hands of you and Joe, and y'all just figure that one out.
Don't need it.
We wouldn't, well, I'll say this, I know the public works contracting law.
Mm.
Well, so I know what we have to hit to make sure we have a valid bid process.
Right.
There's certain
Right.
30 days. Some of our clients like to approve it, but most of the time it is whoever sort of shepherded the project from the city, the county side that says, let's sit down and put it together. And it's a lot of what, I know, we just don't like to open bids in the middle of a business meeting. We prefer them to be,
No, there will be
because the
separate
people
event, yeah.
don't want to hang around and talk, and y'all have other business you need to do.
Sure.
But the discussion of it and then the award, you know, certainly at a regular meeting.
Yeah.
That y'all choose.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then plus there are things that we would probably have the attorney wants to. Y'all probably haven't seen the contract documents. We have the standard bond forms in there, but anything that we need to send to Jay, he's giving me a look like, I don't think he has seen it. We can do that too in the meantime, because we would ask them to approve the form of the bonds before the contracts. You get a successful contract and you sign it. Because ultimately, if there's an issue, they would be the first ones you turn to discuss those sides.
Sure.
Plus, so we can certainly make that available anytime during the process.
Okay, great.
So it sounds like Mary, you and I will get together and set the calendar.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Move on.
As long as-
It's like, as I stated earlier, the documents have been, they've been done for
They've
a
been
while.
running forever.
We just, now that we have some direction and momentum, we have the funding in place,
Yeah,
let's go, because it won't
absolutely.
cost any less if we wait.
Yeah. And when you put that out there for bid and they come back with questions, then there's a process of answering those and re-putting those on with the bid.
Just to help, so what would happen is once it's, the bid documents, there's an advertisement that gives enough information about the project for a contractor to know who to talk to get plans
Right.
and to ask questions. And in that form, there is a person to send, it goes to Natalie at our office.
Mhm.
She collects all the questions and it goes to the engineer. And then what happens is we would then, once the questions come in, we will do an addendum to the bid that answers the questions. And then things will change,
Yeah.
clarifications, suppliers, And so the bid process goes, and there's a certain cutoff to where you have to say, all right, we're only gonna take questions up to this point.
Right.
And then you can't do the addenda 72 hours before it opens because everybody needs to have free and open competition and bid on the same set of documents, same set. So everybody has to acknowledge that they received the addenda when they turn their bids in.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah.
You can't say they didn't.
We went through that process with them.
Yes, it's very similar. Most engineers will do it very similarly, have little nuances. And then when there's a bid opening, we will have the sign-in sheet. We will have the forms for people who come to write the numbers in, and we'll open them however you want to do it. Read the parent load bidder, say thank you for coming, and then.
Yeah.
And then we collect all that, and it gets to Natalie, she scans it all in and starts doing her.
Okay.
It's, and the project documents will be that big, but most of that is the technical specs that kind of define what they're doing. And it's got the standard agreements, and we also do the same, we ask for the E-Verify, all the standard things they have to do, because the state law says they have to be, lawful presence, affidavits, all that sort of information. We ask them for their experience. Similar projects, the name of the key personnel, all that sort of set the invitation instructions.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's an interesting process if you've never been through one. If you've been through a few, it's like, oh, okay, but still, this one's a big deal for you all. And I think Miss Linda remembers a previous wastewater project, and that was a big deal at that time.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of people future users are waiting on this.
They're waiting.
So our job is just to help you make it as smooth as possible.
Okay.
But I will get that description to you all.
Yeah, and we'll talk, but I think that advertisement of 12-18 is a good idea to put that out. We should put it up for a little period.
Sure.
Chat.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
you're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna move on, to the Envision Walnut Grove Initiative. There were so many things going on. We lost a city clerk. We had to put it off, guys, and, Marilyn was fine with that. We have an adjusted date and that memo is in there. I think I gave that to you. Did I give it to you? I did. It's a memo. It was a memo.
This is good.
No, calendar. I did. What's in there? It's one of the attachments. I guess I don't know. Sorry. And I might have.
Where do you see
It
It goes in here.
It was in
was
the
in my
email.
email. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing this.
Excuse me a minute while I look at this. Anybody pulls it up before I do?
You had, Mayor, you had the first workshop was proposed for February 11th for land use.
Yeah.
The second workshop
March 11th, right?
was March 11th for visual preference.
Mhm.
Then you had the final workshop scheduled for April the 3rd.
Okay.
And I think you have those as proposed days, so that's February, March, and April.
Yeah, and those were proposed to us from Marilyn Hall and her team. And the kickoff is actually been moved to January. My Rachel, help me out here. 21st. And the county commissioner has already confirmed.
So I think I already put all that
Yeah.
on my calendar.
January, the county commissioner has confirmed his attendance at that first meeting, talk about the county park. The DOT has said that they will get the main lady to come.
Good.
And then, we'll probably talk a little bit about this. From our manager can get up there and we'll talk about that and where we are with that. And then we'll go into the initiative and Marilyn will take over. Okay, and go from there. So those are the dates. So if you are available and they are all at 6 o'clock, right? That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I typically just go put like that in my calendar and
Yeah.
then I can change it if we change it.
Okay.
The days are still at Church at the Grove?
At the Church of the Grove, yes, ma'am. Okay, any questions about that? We are gonna be doing a little bit of a marketing program with that. Rachel had the great idea, I don't know if you guys see those bumper stickers, the oval ones, where it has like the initial of, Hilton Head or HH. We have some stickers that say WG on them that we're gonna be handing out. And we're also gonna be, looking at, some more ways to market. We're gonna be getting signage out and we're gonna be doing a newsletter, an update for the citizens as well as, introducing the initiative. And that's gonna come out, pretty darn soon. So if you have any other ideas to get the word out, it'd be great. Send it out through the schools.
I think say the date for things is always a good way to, get a start, when people start passing those things around.
No, you're right. It's a good idea.
I'm just doing that.
Well, that's the newsletter, yeah.
In the newspaper.
Mhm. Okay. 2025 City of Walnut Grove Council meeting dates. Does anybody have any issue with that? Some of them are moved around just because of school holidays, spring breaks. I tried to take into consideration all that, any kind of conference that we've gone on, even small cities conferences. But that's what I'm looking at. We have to have that published. And it's a good idea to have it on our schedules, our calendars.
Did I not send you my corrections?
No, we didn't.
Okay. If I can read my notes here. I've got circle October 3rd, that it should be the 2nd.
Okay.
Because like the day of the week or whatever it was.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Don't want to have a council meeting on Friday night?
No, thanks.
Nobody's
It's January 5th, like I said, trying to read my notes here. I've got, why are we not doing it on the 8th? That's the second Thursday.
For 2026?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because your main concern was we would be having an election the year before and we need to get our council members in.
Yeah, so January 8th.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying, the January 8th would be our regular council meeting, not the 15th.
January 8th would be the second Thursday, it's the first Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably because I thought a month over the holidays is a good thing for the council members.
Okay.
Not probably, that's exactly why I did that.
Yeah, okay. So then you check with planning and zoning, make sure we're not conflicting with them.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But if you guys don't agree with that,
Cool. Don't know where to be.
okay. I think that once interlude sometimes is a nice. Sometimes council members need a break, spend some family time over the holidays. Without having to think about everything. Any other dates on that?
I had a note on here, and I'm not sure about this or where I got it. Apologize, I'm not more prepared with my notes. I understand what I wrote down. But I have spring break was the 7th to the 11th.
It is the 7th through the 11th.
Okay, so that still works. All right, that's what I wanted to be sure, because you said the 3rd instead of the 10th.
Because if it was 7th through the 11th, people wouldn't be around.
Okay,
I have one.
all right.
December 18th. We have council meetings on that Thursday, and I always have a holiday party that I miss because of that.
December?
Yeah.
And then
Get your priorities straight.
Holiday party.
December 2025. We can do like we're doing this month. We can do December 4th and we can do December 11th. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Get
I'm
that
sure
out of the way.
I'm pretty flexible with all the dates.
Everybody good for that? I will go ahead and make an adjustment and we'll get this posted and I'll get it out to you guys again. Was there another date? Hey, guys, if something comes up and we have to change a date, I just prefer not to, so if we have something obvious, let's get it changed. But if something does come up, then we have a mayor pro tem, or you guys will be deciding on a new mayor pro tem for next year. We have several council members and we're always at meetings, so if somebody can't make a meeting, just remember, that's okay. That's why we have as many people as we have. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Last thing is the iWork software program for code enforcement, public works, permitting, business licensing. I have found since I have been in office, and probably before then, keeping track of what is going on in the office, with code enforcement, with we need to move into the next stage of growing as a city, and that means electronic records. We have done some, I've asked Rachel to sit in with me on a few of these companies that do these kind of electronic records. It not only helps the city stay up on what is going on, but people in public works, people who are in code enforcement, permitting, licensing. It streamlines the process and it makes people's jobs easier. And we're able to pull up information faster and keep records and help with budgeting. It just helps throughout the whole city for everyone. And we have met with iWorks. We've also met with the gov.com. I've looked at a bunch of other ones online. The iWorks, when we met with them, we were really quite honestly just blown away by how easy the program was. There was a program in place by the previous administration, trying to get any kind of a response from them for getting us back online or helping out, was not an easy process. This company, if you saw the contracts I shared with you, if I call, I get them. If I call and I say, hey, can I speak to Levi, who's one of our contacts? All of a sudden, Levi's on the phone. You know, I do understand that they are trying to sell their program to us, and I take that into consideration. But I just think that this company, when Rachel and I saw it and we talked with them and looked at it, it is so easy to use. It grows as we grow, and it will help our employees. It will help citizens because there's a way for citizens to interact. We choose to do that in the future. I sent you two proposals. One was for code enforcement, public works, and permitting. And then they called me and said, if you'd like to throw, because I told them I said I have a very strict budget. And so they took away the $3,000 setup fee. And they called back and said, if you'd like to throw in business licensing now, we will take away the setup fee on that one too. And we won't bill you until your new budget. So it is up to you guys.
Right. So I understand it correctly that the total here includes these three different figures that we have here, for one for the public works package, one for the community development package, and the entity management package. So it would be all three of those.
That's public works, code enforcement,
And that's an annual,
Permanent.
right?
That is an annual rate.
Okay, now, the question I had was early in the contract, it refers to the 3 years.
Right.
So what I wanted to find out is, are we making a 3-year commitment
not.
to them?
We are not on the
I
hook for
wanted to
3
be
years,
clear.
so 1 year contract.
Okay,
We asked that question also.
I would like for it to state that in the contract if that's the case.
Oh, it's good. You're gonna see it?
No, I'm not looking at the
Okay.
contract.
We
If
can
it
have
goes
that.
3 years, I agree with Maxine. I'm rather than say 1 year if it's a 1 year.
I mean, I realize the way it reads, the things I had highlighted, said we will invoice on an annual basis, and we'll invoice yearly. But then it refers to 3 years and it refers to making changes if we don't, it sounds like a 3-year commitment when I read it.
I think that's why I asked the question too, but absolutely, we can have that in the contract.
Absolutely, we must have that in the contract.
We will have that in the contract if you guys vote to move forward with this.
So year one, that $4,600 is year one,
For code enforcement, public works,
and then if we want to renew, what is it? 13,000? No.
Well, see, the way I'm looking at it is if you're saying 3 years, you can, because they say you can pay 3 years in advance and get those rates.
Right.
So they're making it sound like we
It's
continue
locking-
with that price.
It's locking you into the price over a 3-year term, but you're only obligated, we could cancel in year one.
Mhm.
And then if we reapply, we would get a whole new rate and we would be locked into that rate for 3 years. That's where the 3 years came from. And that's how he explained it to us on the video chat that we had with them. That was the intent and purpose of the 3-year period.
Customer pricing is based on a 3-year term.
Right, and that was all that was, but it doesn't mean that. Contract, but we can ask for.
we could, you will ask for that to be in the contract too. If we do it for the first year, this is the price.
And to go on Maxine's point under termination, says prior to the expiration of the initial 3-year term, either party may terminate the agreement, then all amounts are due.
Right,
So
That's right.
right. And we-
Okay.
1 year.
So
Okay, but we're looking at a total of 6,400 for all.
If you add on that last one for business license, licensing. This year, we've already got our applications for licensing out. We did it via email and the licenses are coming back in now.
Right.
So if we don't want to do that, we don't do it. It's already gone out. They're coming back in. We haven't had to do this.
Well, I mean, I like to think in terms of, for if this is what we like and think is the right service for us with software and slash service,
Mhm.
that's also by next year going to be included on that.
Mhm.
So I like to think in those terms so that we're looking at it from that perspective, even though it wouldn't be on this year's.
Since we've already taken care of the licensing for this year, we can also take this year, see what we think of the product, to see what our staff thinks of the product. To see if it's working for us as well as we think it's going to.
And I I'm kind of reflective of, just like the last software we bought, and then there was the administrative software that we bought, and there was another software that we bought that's all basically in the drawer somewhere.
Mhm.
Or not being used, or we had to pay for the service for a long time that it wasn't used, and I don't want to land in the same spot anymore.
Yeah,
No, I can appreciate that very much.
I'll explain it to you the way I understand it. This is like an app on your phone. This will help Public Works and code enforcement to catalog everything that they do.
Right.
And provide a source document for future budgets, for interdepartmental administrative oversight of all of these departments. And then the very cool thing that I appreciated about this product was how easy it was to use. I mean, it was super simple, easy. It couldn't be easier. Like, let's say I'm Mr. Ellington and I'm driving up to this place over here and I'm parked. Well, the GPS locator says, hey, you're at this house. Here's all the violations you've had in the last year, 6 months, 7 months, whatever. And here's what they were for, you know.
Right, yeah, no, I did go to their site, and I read a lot about the software and how it works, and
It was really-
went through some of their demos
Yeah, it
that
was,
were
it
available.
was really interesting. And then for Public Works, I mean, like right now, we have paper everywhere. Brian doesn't want to keep up with paper. He wants to make sure this lawnmower is working. Well, now if he changes that blade, he can go in there and put it in. Hey, I bought this blade, it costs this much, that's where I bought it from. And then if he goes back next year and that same blade needs replaced, he can go back to that app, see how much the blade cost. And it helps with budgeting, but it also helps with
Right.
recall. And he's not carrying around, briefcase full of paperwork.
Or
or
a vehicle,
receipts, or, yeah.
a vehicle's constantly breaking down, or HVAC unit is
Right,
breaking
you
down.
know, I understand the working down all of it. I believe in software working,
Yeah.
but the people have to utilize the software.
And did y'all
And
have,
historically, we have not here involved.
did y'all have Craig and Ron available when these guys were talking to y'all?
No, this is something that Greg Chappell has used in the city of Tequila for years. And they have successfully used it, and he said that, coming into our city and doing the system that we have with paper, takes the time that is wasted, is unbelievable compared to what he used to be able to do in his old city. And that's the same thing that will go on for Public Works. Brian will be able to put in everything he does and his staff does on a daily basis, and that will help justify new employees. It will take care of some of this paperwork that needs to happen, that's not happening now.
Like preventative maintenance schedules and all things that.
Yeah.
Should be documented.
And if I understand it correctly, the reason that some of the software hasn't been used in the past was it because you couldn't get the company on the phone to fix it?
I couldn't get in touch with the company to even talk to them.
Right.
And these guys had passcodes that either didn't work or were forgotten or whatever the case may be.
And so, from what I could see, some of the software that was there was really not user friendly at all, which makes it much more difficult for somebody like Brian, because that's, you know, he doesn't live on the computer working to be able to understand and work his way through it
Mhm.
as quickly as someone that knows computers might. So yes, having the user friendly would be very important.
And this is something that not only Brian, but his employees, and as we grow, other employees will use. And eventually, the citizens will be able to ask for assistance. There's a pothole here, put it in. It's just user friendly, it's very transparent, and it's the city trying to get the citizens,
How
it's
will,
just,
how will employees, will they have this on their work phones? Is that what?
Yes.
So does
computers.
every employee have a work phone?
Not every employee does not.
So will they?
As in.
Do we plan on?
It'll go on their computer too.
No, I mean like, so like the other public works guys, they don't have a city phone, right? So if they need to put something into the system, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the way I read it, it's basically an online system, so it's just having access, whether it's from a computer or from a phone.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily an app on the phone. It may have an app that goes along that complements it, but
I'm just asking, how do we have access to things?
Finance department employees all having a phone.
Okay.
I do see that, because they should be able to go out as single people, as, you know, two working together on a project. Be assigned a project, go get it taken care of, sign off when it was done, and then move on to the next project that's been assigned.
And then Brian, they will check the system and just say, hey, this has been done.
Yep.
Yeah.
But will the guys that do, the Veritas guys that did the building inspections, will they use it too?
No, they won't. Then we're moving in a different direction, I believe.
The city of Grayson went through the implementation on this and they use it. And they use the community development package and they use the planning and zoning and all the inspections, everything they have now for that side, they use it. I looked at the proposal and if there's training built in there, there was a lot of, I was not involved as much as my next door neighbor in a lot of Zoom chats trying to build the module specifically for them, because they use it to take zoning applications and all. So there's a lot of flexibility, but now they've got it installed, and of course, we do inspections for Tequila, and they give us printouts of what our guys go and do, and I think we use it to upload the results, but I mean,
Yeah.
of the ones that we interact with, I mean, our work seems to be very useful.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't know how much development y'all will have to do to get what you want versus maybe maybe they've already worked out some of those kinks and they can say, here's the, the modules you need, but for charge tracking permitting,
Mhm.
and they assign a number, and once you get used to it, it sends you an email whenever something's been submitted or inspection request, and all, it makes it much easier and I can see where Brian trying to do MS4 data gathering for all that would be very helpful for maintenance, his MS4 maintenance.
Yeah.
Because instead of, he could log it when they go and clean out a ditch, he logs it and
Right.
it's all, you set that up and it's all in there. So when it comes time to do the report,
All that stuff, and there it is.
because Loganville uses Sims, but I think they're going away from Sims, but I do their MS4 work because EMS,
Mhm.
and they give me printouts of everything that they compile based on what we need, and that's how they track their. But
Yeah.
I think that program's been phased out, and they may be going to something similar, but
There are so many different software programs out there.
there is.
My husband on a yearly basis has all these different people coming in trying to do for facilities
Yeah.
maintenance type stuff. And the DeKalb County School System bought a system that was several $1 million, and it wasn't set up for facilities maintenance. It was set up for accounting.
Wow.
And so he worked on for 2 years trying to get it set up for facilities maintenance. This program is specifically not only for code enforcement and permitting and business licenses and public works. It's all, we saw the actual demonstration giving us ideas about this is how it would work for code enforcement. This is what would happen for public works. And it's just user friendly. Did everybody have a chance to get online and look at the system to understand what we're talking about and see some of their demonstrations to know how user friendly it is?
I told you.
Mhm.
And the other thing I meant to mention is if you're gonna use it for permitting, you all can tweak your fee schedules to bear the cost. I mean, it doesn't take much, and so it's not coming right out of it'd help offset that cost
Right.
because it does a lot of that legwork for you. So I mean, there's nothing that would, but now, public works,
Mhm.
that side, you just sort of bear that in the budget, but permitting, you can adjust your fees to help offset that cost. It's just a line item in your permitting or city hall admin budget, so that you're not necessarily having to ask.
We can also incorporate scheduling for the baseball field, the pavilion, for this place, if we decide to go ahead and rent it out. It expands and it can grow with us. So if you haven't had a chance to go online and look at some of the demonstrations, please do that. I am going to put this on the next agenda. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I can give you the names of the gentlemen we spoke with. If you have any questions for them, you can ask them. I will leave this up to you guys to decide on this one.
Are we looking at, if we go with this, starting this basically January?
As soon as possible, yes.
This pricing said this
Through
in.
December.
And we would be having to pay the entire amount because they're gonna bill annually. So want to make sure.
We didn't budget for it. Where would the money come from?
Right now, we're under budget on a lot of things.
That's what I said, we need to look at where we would move that.
We didn't have to do a budget amendment for the audit because we are under. We were good in there and we're talking with Sam right now and we're still on that track of being under budget on so many things. Unfortunately, we're almost completely up to date with any of the changes that need to happen in our county. Unfortunately, we also have somebody who just came on board who's an expert in that.
I don't know about that.
But
Change your mind.
I'm sitting here tonight.
and not only will our auditor be coming at the January council meeting to present the audit, but Sam's going to be coming in January to talk about a budget amendment for any of the other things that we need to go ahead and adjust for this fiscal year. Okay. So yes, you're right. We will have to figure out where it's coming from, but I'm confident that the money is there.
I mean, it's not a huge amount. If you put in perspective, it's less than $400 a month expense to run the operation much more smoothly once everybody's over with the training.
And they do work with us. They have template forms. They do make forms that we need. They take our suggestions and our thoughts and what we want to see on things. So
And
it will take a little work, but it's worth it. I have found that if we get the right thing in place and people follow through, it actually works. You know? Okay. All right. If you guys have any questions, let me know, or I can help out in any way. Let me know, or if you want the names of the gentlemen we spoke with, then you have to get them for you. Okay. Are there any other questions about that or anything else that we talked about? Let's get out of here. Okay. I'm going to ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Let's not be very fantastic. All right. Unanimous. Thank you, everybody.